Hey Jordan, nice job so far. So yeah, I like the variety of elements. I just have a few suggestions. The main one is in terms of the angle of view. It's great that you're using this kind of a side view because this is like 2 point perspective, but you may want to also make these in that same angle of view so it looks a little bit more consistent. Something like this. I mean, I just did a Google image search for typewriter, but again, since you have that object, I would just photograph it from the side. Because if you did something, you can see again, then you have your two sides. So just to illustrate that, and I'm just looking at Google image search just to show you, because you could just take that same picture. Even though you could use something online, it might even help for color. But again, if you ever use Google or any other for online, just if you mouse over, you can see the pixels. So again, you want to get a pretty big one because this is not the right image, but this is like 2100, so that would work, something like that. So anyway, the other suggestion I have would be to split up some of these cables so you can really bend a little bit more and disperse the color in a little bit more. This is really the only color you have in the piece. So think about where you could add some more color. You could also have some cables that are more colorful. Again, if you have them yourself, you could stick them in there because I think it would just have more variety if you because you've got the same cable in here and it's overall everything's on this grayscale except for that red. So that would be another suggestion. The same thing you could do, with a mouse. So if you look again, mouse. Something from a side view again, and you could use, something with a little bit more color and a little bit more light. There's ways that you could improve the light on this because it's pretty dark. You don't see any detail, and we're going to be doing more of that. So you would just go into this layer, and then you would do a levels adjustment. That's what I would first do. And then you can kind of see how it affects. Just look at this because then we can clip it. But again, so if I drag this in, you can see now it's getting a little bit more texture, but this photograph I think could be a little bit better, just photographed in better light because it's a little bit dark. So that's really not helping much. So I would probably really suggest that you get another image. Again, you can, if you look at the TV, the levels are helping that a little bit. Let me see here. I turned it off. So not TV, the monitor. So if you just, let me see, put this up here, move it up. Now it has to be on top. So if you kind of play with that with the levels, I'm just moving these sliders again back and forth right here just so you can kind of see what I'm doing. There's a lot of other adjustments. So again, a little bit more detail here, and then what you do is you just clip it so it doesn't affect everything under it, and then we just say create clipping mask. So again, then you've just got the adjustment layer here. We can turn it off. I think it improves it a little bit, but again, you might want to also think of putting something on the screen that was a little bit more dynamic. I was kind of thinking of something more in the lines of, this is kind of a 3D looking image, but you could add anything, and then you could, like this one here, you could add this filter to it so it'll make it look more like a screen. So just some other ideas to improve. So the main thing that's really taken away from the sense of depth are these monitors, and you don't have to use the same one for each foot. It tends to look a little bit better. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to put them in one folder so I can move that together. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm just going to hit the folder, and so then we can just turn the whole thing off. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller because it is kind of big, and that's the kind of beauty of having it in like a layer group, they call it, or a folder pretty much. So then you can kind of move it around. Again, you don't want to, you kind of want to avoid the flat look. I mean, even if you were going to keep this, which I hope you don't, just because it you know, you have such a cool thing that, but you would want to then make this whole back part smaller. And that's again using perspective. You would have to also make the cable smaller as well. And again, because just like this side is bigger, right? And then it gets smaller. That's the same theory you want to use for this other stuff as well. I'm not sure what that is. I think it's a stick of RAM, but you might want to make that a little clearer. Overall, your masks look pretty good. I mean, there's some little issues with them that you can smooth. Oh, that's another keyboard, I see. You could use a stick of RAM. That has more color in it, and I think it might even, you know, it just might add a little bit more, you know, just a little bit more vibrancy. So I'm just gonna, or some kind of circuit board. Oops, spelled it wrong. So again, you could see that this definitely has some color to it. So again, you need to pay attention to the perspective. You'd want to get something from a semi-side view. Again, since this is not the right angle of view, it kind of looks a little bit awkward. So you could find something, you know, even like, oh shoot, whoops, go over there. Something like this one here. Or again, but, and if you want to use, gosh darn, if you want to use something from Google Image Search, again, if you just roll over this, that's a pretty small, that's still a little bit small, but it's 600 pixels you can see there. So just roll over them and look for a really, that's a pretty big one. It's kind of not all that attractive, but again, it's 1,000. You could probably get away with this. So again, just, you know, just think about other options. Usually it takes students a couple times to get this the way they want it. And be sure to start doing that soon because the class is over in a couple weeks. So you want to really get this, you know, get this refined a little bit more. Okay, so anyway, deal with this. You might want to get some more color in the cables, not too much. You could even add some of these red ones down here to it. You can have more than 5 objects. You don't need to just have 5. Work with these cables so they, again, and if you separate them more, then you can make, you can also make them bigger and smaller. So let's say you wanted this one larger so it comes forward. You just select that layer, make it larger, and then again, I mean, it doesn't really go with this at the moment because of the way that you know, they're placed. But again, if you have some different sizes in there, it's just looks a lot more interesting. And then again, these look closer because they're bigger, and the little ones look further away. Same with even these things too, and everything really, because it just creates more interest. Okay, so anyway, yeah, I hope this was useful, and I'm glad you're pretty much caught up. Okay.